Even though I've owned my Mustang project now for a little bit more than a month, today is actually going to be the first day where I really get to drive it and enjoy it, which is kind of crazy because in that short month, I've already got a 5.4 quad cam motor and it's completely tore down. I already got an Australian Boss 290 intake. We've lowered the car, we've made some cosmetic improvements and a bunch of other stuff, but I haven't really driven the car, mainly because it's extremely dangerous with the tires that are mounted on it. So first thing we're doing today is getting some new tires mounted up on the old Mustang. Let me show you what we got and then let me show you the problem. We have these new Nittos NT555s, 255/45, so it's a little bit taller, like by half of an inch than what's on the car now, and it's a little bit wider as well. We got the 98 Cobra wheels on here right now, and these tires though, they're BFG Comp TAs, which I don't even think they make these anymore. The date code, I believe, is from either 2007 or 2011. This one has gone flat on me like 3 times. The one over here, I came out this morning, was flat. I already pumped this one up yesterday. It just leaks a bunch of air outside of the bead here. There's so much dry rot, they're basically dangerous. I've seen a lot of guys, they'll find like an old barn find car, or they'll drive a car with really old tires on it. And basically, that's a huge risk because the tires can explode and then basically cause your car to crash. So I didn't want to have that happen. So I just waited until we got those new tires, which we are going to get mounted up today. We're also going to do a little bit more work on the 5.4 project, just take some measurements to figure out exactly what pistons and rods, bearings and stuff like that we're going to order. But first, let's get the Mustang jacked up, get the tires off of it, and get to the tire store. All right, so I believe if I'm reading this correctly, these tires were made in the 48th week of 2007. By the way, if you leave your tire stickers on when you go for a drive, you are crazy. Now, we just had something happen on the channel here which I wanted to stop and address real quick because I owe each and every one of you guys a huge, heartfelt thank you. We just crossed 100,000 subscribers, which is a milestone I've had my eye on ever since I started doing YouTube full-time about 2 years ago. I quit my job back in September of 2020. We moved the family from Tennessee clear across the United States to Utah. And ever since then, I've been working in my shop here, building cars, making content. And thank you guys for watching it because that's what makes it possible for me to do what I consider to be my dream job. I mean, I'm not solving world hunger here. I'm not doing brain surgery. We're not curing any economic crises. Like, I'm just a dude in my garage building cars, and with your help, it makes it possible for me to do it. So thank you guys so much. It's been a journey for sure. I'll admit that. I've learned a lot of lessons. I've figured out what works. I've figured out some things that do work, and I'm still trying to figure out how to tweak my content. I've got a lot of bad habits that I need to unlearn from my previous job and, being a host and things like that. But I love doing what I'm doing. And like I said, without you guys watching the content, and yeah, watching the ads, I know it sucks to see ads, but that's what makes it possible for me as a creator to afford to be able to do stuff like this. Because, I mean, I'll admit it, building cars is not an inexpensive hobby, but I have been blessed to be able to do it with your help. 100,000 of you guys have subscribed to the channel. That is a huge number, and we're just getting started though. I just kind of wanted to lay out my next 6 months to a year just because it kind of helps keep me accountable and it helps you guys know what direction we want to take. Ever since I moved here, one of my other goals has been to get into a shop, but we haven't been able to make that happen just yet for a couple of reasons, but primarily the real estate market here in Utah has exploded ever since we moved in, and I cannot afford a shop right now, but also there's no availability near where we live. But I think next summer, if things continue to go the way that they are, we will be able to get into a shop. I'll be able to have more than one of my projects under the same roof at the same time. I mean, you guys just saw me out in the driveway taking tires off the Mustang. And I would love to be able to get into a shop with a lift. That's like, a third or a fourth or a fifth goal. But I know we're going to make that happen. It's a journey, and we are on it. We're all in. We're fully committed. But I just wanted to take this quick second and say thank you guys, because you make it possible to do what I love. Looks nice. So there's the final look with the new tires, 255, 45. They're a tiny bit taller, tiny bit wider. I think they fill out the wheel well pretty good. A shorter tire might have looked a little bit better, but I think this would still allow us plenty of room to lower it if we wanted to. But now we get some good tires. These Nittos are supposed to be pretty grippy if we want to do any sort of like track or sporty type driving. So we definitely will have a drag pack on here at some point, but for now, this is the street setup. Where's the little guy? We don't need the big one for this, do we? There it is. Full disclosure, I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's probably wrong. I mean, this thing was skidding on the pavement face down. Let's see if we get a good angle there. At like 60 miles an hour. And for 2 minutes with a buffer, that looks a million times better. I'll take it any day of the week. So, still kind of bummed it actually fell off, but it looks, well, I don't know, it looks about 80% as good as it did before, and it's better than nothing. This is by far the slowest vehicle that I own. I guess not counting the Tolman, because I still do own that. But it's the most fun to drive. Like, the ugly truck is just, it's almost too much to drive on the street now with the torque that it's making. The Cobra truck, that's a lot of fun too, but just the combination of a light vehicle, manual transmission, V8 rear-wheel drive, like, it's so much fun, even though it's slow. But of course, with a 5.4 4-cam build, we are going to fix that here in a hurry. I just, like, I'm glad that I'm back in a sporty little car, and I'm glad that's a fun, supposed to be cheap project. We'll see how that turns out, but I love it. Now that we get tires on here, I can actually drive it and enjoy it. And I want to do a few simple upgrades to it until we get the motor, or before we get the motor in, I guess I should say. You know, a few suspension things, probably re-gear it. Right now it's got like 323s, I think. So a million little things that we could do, but it's a driver, it's fun, and I mean, what else can you hope for? What else can you ask for? So one of the last things I want to do is just get some measurements on this block and the crankshaft to see potentially what we have to do with this, because If the bores are really, really worn, we'll have to oversize it, but I'm hoping we can get away with just a fresh home job. I'll probably have the machine shop do that, as well as a line home, because I am putting ARP main studs in instead of the original factory bolts. That does, of course, require touching up the line home. So anyway, I'm just gonna get some quick measurements here with the dial bore gauge and see where we're at. So it looks like for our bore of 3552, we use this chart, and we need the number 9 little spindle or pokey thing, whatever you want to call it. Number 9, this one right here. So I'm going to very, very lightly clamp this in the vise just to kind of hold it steady. Gives you like 3 hands to do this. And now we are going to zero my dial bore gauge at 3.552, and that'll tell us if the bore in the block is bigger or smaller than this. So right, if I can hold still, right there is exactly 0. So that, perfect. That is 3.552 on the nose. But now let's check it like halfway down, for example, where the pistons move all the time, right there. We look for the biggest number, and that is like 6.5 or 7/10 oversized, which means it's worn by 6 or 7/10. So that's 0.0006. It's about 5, 7, 4. So basically what I'm finding is towards the top of the bore, it is worn the most, and towards the middle and bottom it's worn a little less. Like right here at the top of this bore, we are getting, well, that one's like 4/10, that's not bad. So what's really interesting on this one is this bore is actually kind of oval shaped. It looks like it's 7 or 8/10 oversized here, but if I measure the opposite way, or 90 degrees, it's like 12/10 undersized, which obviously the bore can't shrink, so that means my gauge is a little bit off. But that does tell me, though, for a fact that this bore is oval shaped, and that's something that the machine shop, hopefully, well, of course they can correct it, but it's something that needs to be done. All right, so now I'm going to measure the main and rod journal diameter, and this is going to give us an exact measurement of the diameter here. And I did find a tolerance on a Ford document that showed what these were allowed to be. So the reason I'm checking this one is because they definitely have a few little grooves in there which need to be taken out, hopefully with just a polish. But I'm going to see what our starting diameter is. So this is the accepted range, 2.568 to 2.6576, and we are at start with 2.65 plus another 5.6, and then 7. We are just a tiny bit under the minimum size. So that's under by 0.0001 inch. All right, so for the rod, we have, of course, start with 2.0. See, that's 75, but then we have to add to that 10, so that's 0.76. And then we have to add to that. So right within the middle of the range, actually, because the range is 59 to 67. We're 63. So that one is good. So that is a lot of information in terms of all the measurements that we took, but it does tell me one thing, that basically the crank and the block that we have are in really good shape, and they should only require light cleanup work to get back in spec and get back in action. And to be honest, they're probably good enough where I could run this engine stock for a long time. But this is going to be a high performance build. We are going to be raising the power output, so I want this stuff to be, exactly where it needs to be. I think the crank is just going to need a light polish to get the journals free of any of those little light grooves that you see in there. Hopefully we can just get a hone job in here to correct the roundness and put some fresh finish on those cylinder walls. And then I am going to get it line honed as well, but only because I've got some ARP main studs that are going to be going in the bottom end, and those do distort the main caps a little bit more than the factory bolt. So hopefully those are the only 3 operations that we have to do. I will, of course, you know, the machine shop, they're going to take their own measurements, make their own determination and recommendation, but I think we're in great shape. Long-term goals for the Mustang, of course, we're going to get the 5.4 in there. This is not going to be an all-out dedicated drag car, I don't think. My plan is just to make it a fun, all-around cruiser that maybe we'll take to the strip every now and then. But, you know, I'd like to also go to the road course, because these big, heavy trucks that I build, you know, they might be quick in a straight line, but they're definitely not something you want to take on to the autocross or the road course. Where this car, with our turbo 5.4, I do want to have just more of an all-around fun car. And over the winter, I am going to do some modifications to it before the new engine goes in. You know, I'll change the suspension around a little bit, probably re-gear the rear end. Change the exhaust. We definitely got to make it louder and let the neighbors know that it's a Mustang. You know, just the basic stuff. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you once again for 100,000 subs. I really appreciate it. This is a huge milestone for me, and I don't think I properly conveyed how happy that makes me. So you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Come back soon.